Hi, this is Frenox, and I'm going to give you a quick rundown of my movement change proposal collection thing here. Just so you know, this demo that I'm playing around with is available for download. The link is in the description of this video. I highly encourage you to download it and give it a try yourself. A lot of these changes are difficult to convey through video or through audio. Sometimes it's better just to feel them for yourself. Alright, so the first change, and probably one of the more significant ones, is to the implementation of how the lances move in the first place. Instead of being in contact with the ground, either through sliding along the ground or having a wheel or whatever it is under the hood, the lance in this implementation is hovering over the ground. Every physics frame, a sphere cast and a ray cast are fired from the bottom of the lance down to the floor to gather information on how high up the lance is and what the slope of the ground is beneath it. That information is then used to calculate a lifting force to hold the lance up at a predetermined position, or rather a predetermined altitude, and then the slope information is used for the sake of being able to deal with maximum ascent angles, that sort of thing. The major advantage to this is it gives a huge increase in the altering capability of the lance, and makes it feel a lot more like a bipedal object rather than something that's moving along the ground. So the objects you see all over the place, these all just have their default hitboxes. There's no invisible hitboxes smoothing things out. So something like this, if I was sliding on the ground, would be practically impossible to move around on. But with this approach, I can move around on it no problem. And you can see that I am climbing up and down on these individual little blocks. And it just runs very smoothly. The height at which the lance attempts to hold itself up can be changed depending on if it's walking or if it's skimming. So you can see when I skim, I rise up a little bit. Just adds a little bit of a kind of a feel thing to it to make it more obvious when you're walking and when you're skimming. And the lifting force can also be different depending on if you're walking or you're skimming. So if I jump up in the air while walking, you can see there's a little bit of a bounce there, but it's stiff. It's like a really stiff spring when I land. If I'm skimming, however, it's a much softer landing, very floaty landing, because you're hovercraft. Just to give a quick demonstration of the ascent angle thing that I mentioned, 22 degrees, easy to climb up. 45 degrees is what I've got the current max ascent angle set to, so I can still climb this. This 50 degree one, however, is too steep, can't get any traction, and I'll just keep slipping off of it. I can still move sideways along it, so I don't have to worry about getting stuck or anything like that, but I can't climb up. A nice thing about using the sphere cast combined with the ray cast is I can have stuff like this. The slope of this is far beyond 45 degrees, so I normally wouldn't be able to climb up of it. But because it's sufficiently small, the sphere cast is going to hit it at an angle and allow me to just step over it without issue. However, over here, same deal, but it's much bigger, and I can't climb up of it. So it can make a good distinction between a slope that's too steep to climb and just a small object that has steep faces. The next change is to the way that acceleration and deceleration work. With this demo, acceleration and deceleration are decoupled, so they can be different from each other. And the acceleration-deceleration performance of walking is decoupled from that of skimming. The idea behind this is trying to make it so that you still have that sense of weight when you're moving your machine around, but at the same time, you don't have as many frustrating situations where you try to stop and then just kind of uncontrollably coast off of a ledge you didn't mean to coast off of. The way I've accomplished that is when I'm in walking mode, the acceleration is still sluggish because it's a big heavy object, but the deceleration is much faster. There's some overlap with realism there too, since when you're accelerating, all you have to do that is your leg muscles or your leg actuators. But when you are decelerating, you have the option to drive your feet into the ground and use friction to assist your slowing down. What that works out in practice is I'm just going to hit left and right on the keyboard. You can see that when I'm doing that, there is a lot of sluggishness in that directional change. But if I just go to stop, it's pretty crisp. Now for skimming, I left the acceleration and deceleration the same as each other, because you're hovering, you don't have anything to drive into the ground. You're just kind of a hovercraft, and you expect floatier movement when you're a hovercraft. A fun side effect of this is you can utilize walking mode to take tight corners or make rapid changes in your move speed, while at the same time using skim mode for actually moving around quickly. So for example, if I'm skimming and I go to turn around while still skimming, you can see it takes a while to come to a stop and start moving in the other direction. However, if I drop onto leg mode, then I can stop considerably quicker and then go back to skim mode to speed up and, continue moving at high speeds. You can also use this to make tighter corners and just generally be a little bit more agile while at the same time having the speed of skimming. You can hear that little kind of sliding sound anytime the lance is slowing down in such a way where it would be driving its feet into the ground to try to increase its stopping power. The next big change is with the way skimming works. The way it's set up is, instead of your skimjets immediately becoming incapable of adjusting your speed as soon as you get up off the ground, your skim acceleration and deceleration scale based on altitude over the normal skim height. So the higher up you are, the weaker your skimjets get, but they still work to some degree. This allows you to have some amount of air control, which is really nice from a player agency perspective, and also helps from, at least for me, an immersion perspective. When you're skimming, you're hovering in the air, and you're using jets of some variety to push you around. It feels very strange to me that as soon as I'm higher up off the air, those jets cease to be able to function. The way I've got things set up right now is the power of the skimjets will keep going down until it hits a minimum. The minimum I've got set right now, I believe, is 50%. So when I hit my jump jets, for instance, and activate the skim, you can see skim power is 50%, and as I get closer to the ground, it comes up to 100. If I jump, you can see how it kind of goes down a little bit, but I still have some amount... Oh, ran out of fuel. Still have some amount of ability to control my trajectory, some amount of player agency while I'm in the air. This also means that if you run into those weird situations where something pops you up into the air unexpectedly, you still have your skimjets, you still have the ability to affect your trajectory, you still have agency over your movement, and it makes that entire situation a lot less frustrating. I've also made some changes to the way that jumping works. So the way I've got it set up is if you just tap jump, then you do a short little hop, something that's pretty similar to the default jump height for everybody that's not NIM. However, if you press and hold jump, then your jump will be continued and you can jump quite a bit higher. So here's the short hop, and then the full length hop. And it's just a matter of how long you hold down the jump button. It's a nice intuitive thing for anybody that's played old school platformers. And it also just allows you to have the best of both worlds, where you have your short hop when you want it, if you don't want to have a lot of hang time, you don't want to leave yourself vulnerable. But at the same time, you have the long jump available should you need it. The next big change is to the way jump jets work. So for the actual jumping part, I've left that the same. The ascent phase functions the same in this demo as it does in the real game. However, for the descent phase, the demo just treats it like regular falling. There's no distinction between falling after jump jetting and falling after just jumping or falling off of a ledge or what have you. This means that while you're descending, you have full control over your aim, you have access to your skimjets for air control. It's just regular falling. So here's an example. I'm jumping. I've got regular jump jet behavior. So, you've got that kind of limited turn speed, and your velocity is bending to match wherever you're looking. However, on the descent phase, you'll see that my aim control becomes unlocked. and I'm able to spin around all the way if I want to. I can use the Skimmjets to change my momentum a little bit. If I want to, it's just regular falling. The idea behind this is to maintain that really wild and explosive feeling that the Jumpjets currently have, because, you know, it's a lot of fun. It's really fun to press a button and just blast off. But at the same time, having player agency during the descent phase and avoiding those frustrating situations where you just barely miss something, or you bump into a wall and you're stuck just facing the wall the entire time you're falling. Just really all of those just kind of awkward situations that you can encounter with Jumpjets. It also just kind of makes sense, since during the descent phase, the Jumpjets aren't doing anything anymore. It's just, you're just falling. There's nothing special going on. Lastly, there's a few small tweaks to some of the enhanced mobility stuff. Nothing too crazy. In order to turn the ability to dash and hover on, you just enable the enhanced mobility mod here. The main changes are with the dash. If you dash and then just continue to hold skim, you will just keep skimming in that direction. You don't have to repress the skim button. So you can see I'm just going to dash and then just seamlessly chain that into skimming that direction. The hover more or less works the same. The main difference is, in my implementation of the hover, the speed is not so limited, so you're able to maintain your momentum a little bit better. If I'm moving at a decent clip when I do it... Oh, wait. Let me actually get some fuel first. Then I'll continue to move at that speed. Pretty nice for a couple of different things, as far as movement option goes. It does just obliterate fuel, though, so you can't just fly around willy-nilly. The other change to the hover is if you are above your hover height and you're still running the hover, instead of just doing nothing and still consuming fuel, the hover will slow your descent speed to a configurable quote-unquote featherfall speed. So you can still use your hover to kind of extend jumps a little bit, extend your range a little bit, even when you're too high up to actually just straight up hover. So here, let me give you an example. Oh, just barely made it. So from here, I can jump, and then, oh, not quite. But you can see just kind of falling at a much more controlled rate than if I were to just be falling normally. So, not a huge thing, but still kind of nice either way. So anyway, I hope you found this interesting. I hope you consider these ideas, and ultimately, I hope you just have fun playing around with this demo. I know I have. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your time.